She's a baddie. Look at her. Okay. Hey, best friend. It's my baby birthday. My favorite cousin's birthday.
The evening lights in Detroit shone bright as people filled the streets. Erica Ridgell decided to go out that night. It was meant to be a short outing, just a chance to relax and have fun. She wore a simple outfit, shared a smile online, and posted a picture of her food. Her post showed nothing strange, just a regular night for a young woman enjoying herself. After that, no one saw another post from her account. Hours passed, and messages to her phone stopped getting replies. Friends said she looked fine earlier, full of energy and laughter. But somewhere between that moment of joy and the morning light, something unexpected happened that would change everything. By sunrise, news began spreading through her neighborhood. People whispered that Erica had been found outside her parents' home. Some said she was left there quietly in the dark. Others said someone brought her back and walked away. The truth of how she arrived was never confirmed, but what everyone knew was that she was not alive anymore. Her family called for help as soon as they discovered her. Paramedics came, and she was taken to Henry Ford St. John Hospital. Doctors tried to help, but she did not survive. The hospital listed her passing, but no reason was shared publicly. It was a simple statement. Erica Ridgell, age 31, had died in Detroit, Michigan. Online, her story spread quickly. Photos of her smiling face filled social media pages. People wrote messages saying they couldn't believe what had happened. Some mentioned her kindness, her humor, and the love she had for her children. Others spoke about how fast life can change. Every post carried the same quiet shock, that someone so full of life could be gone in one night. Her family created a GoFundMe page to help with the cost of her burial. The page described her as a caring mother of 3, someone who always tried to keep her family close. It didn't give details about her death, only that she had passed suddenly. The comments were full of people sending support, prayers, and disbelief that she was gone so soon. The city moved on, but her story did not fade. In Detroit's neighborhoods, people still mention her name. They remembered her laugh, her posts, and the night she never returned home. Her final hours remained unspoken and unclear, leaving behind silence where answers should have been. Erica's last night ended not with noise, but with quiet confusion that still lingers to this day. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below. Where are you tuning in from? What are your thoughts as this story unfolds? Your voice matters. These are real people, real tragedies, and real lessons we can't ignore. Share this video with someone you care about. It can make all the difference. Welcome to Unseen Crime Dossiers, your home for spine-chilling cases, haunting before mysteries, and deep dives into the world of crime. From jaw-dropping real-life events to groundbreaking forensic discoveries, we're here to uncover the truth behind the most gripping investigations. Step inside, examine the evidence, and lose yourself in the shadows of true crime. The morning air in Detroit was cold and still. The sun had just started to rise when the Ridgell home became filled with noise and panic. Erica's mother stepped outside and saw her daughter lying near the porch. For a moment, everything stopped. Then cries for help filled the quiet street. It was a sight no parent should ever see, and neighbors soon rushed out to find out what was happening. Someone called emergency services, and within minutes, an ambulance arrived. Paramedics worked quickly, checking for signs of life. The scene was heavy with confusion as they lifted Erica carefully and placed her inside the vehicle. Her family stood outside, frozen and speechless, watching as the flashing lights faded down the street. The quiet morning had suddenly turned into something no one expected. At the hospital, doctors and nurses tried their best, but nothing changed. Erica was pronounced dead not long after she arrived. Staff members made the report and entered her name into their records. The news reached her family shortly after, leaving them in shock. They had gone from a normal morning to losing someone they loved in just a few short hours. By midday, people in the community started hearing what had happened. Word spread quickly across social media. Posts appeared showing Erica's photo beside candles and heart emojis. Some people shared kind memories about her laughter and her children. Others simply posted her name with broken heart symbols. The story moved fast from one phone screen to another, turning her home address into a place everyone suddenly recognized. That same day, friends and family began leaving flowers and balloons near the porch. Pictures were taken of the small memorial that grew bigger with each visit. The smell of candles filled the air as people came quietly, some standing in silence, some whispering her name. No loud words were needed. The sadness in the air said everything on its own. Inside the house, her family tried to stay strong. Calls kept coming in, messages kept arriving, and people kept asking how it could have happened. Her children stayed close to their relatives, unaware of full truth, but feeling the change around them. Each hour that passed made the house feel emptier. The walls seemed to hold a memory of her voice, her laughter, and her steps that would never return. That evening, the porch where she was found became a symbol of loss. The light above the doorway stayed on through the night, shining over the flowers and candles below. Neighbors passed by quietly, some stopping for a few seconds before walking away. The discovery of Erica Ridgell that morning had left a deep mark on her street, and as night fell again over Detroit, the silence returned, the kind that holds more weight than words ever could. The news of Erica Ridgell's death spread through Detroit faster than anyone could imagine. Within hours, her name appeared across phones, pages, and posts. People who once saw her happy pictures online now shared them with messages of sadness. The story moved from one social media feed to another, turning into a topic that many could not stop talking about. Every post carried her face, a face that once smiled and now symbolized loss. On Facebook, her friends changed their profile pictures to her photo. Many wrote that they could not believe she was gone. Some described the pain of losing someone they spoke to just days before. Comments filled the sections under each post, strangers offering support and others saying they wanted to know more. Her pictures gathered hundreds of reactions within a single day. Her name became a small headline across her city's online space. At local stores and salons, her name was whispered between conversations. People spoke softly, sharing what they had heard and seen online. Some remembered seeing her around town, while others said they had followed her on social media. No matter where the talk started, it always ended in silence. Everyone seemed to be thinking the same thing: how fast life can change in a single night. Her photo became a reminder of how fragile time could be. The community organized a small candlelight vigil that evening. Family members stood together, while others joined to show respect. Balloons floated into the sky as names were spoken in prayer. The candles flickered in the cool air, lighting the faces of those who came to remember her. Cell phones glowed as people recorded short clips, later sharing them online with soft music playing in the background. The scene looked peaceful, but carried a heavy feeling that no words could fix. Her children's pictures appeared in posts made by her relatives. They spoke about how much she loved them, how she always smiled when talking about their future. Old videos of Erica laughing at family events were reshared, each one showing the bright personality people missed. Friends wrote that her voice was something they would never forget. Others said her kindness always made a room feel warm. The online space became both a memorial and a memory box. Local pages started writing short posts about her passing. Some used her story to speak about community safety, while others focused on celebrating her life. Every photo shared carried the same message of love and disbelief. People who had never met her began leaving comments too, saying that her story touched their hearts. The reaction showed how quickly one person's life could connect to so many others. As the night ended, the city grew quiet again. The candles melted down to small pools of wax. The air was filled with the soft smell of smoke and flowers. People walked away slowly, holding their phones with her picture still glowing on the screen. The reactions to her death had spread far beyond her street, turning a single tragedy into a citywide memory that would not be forgotten soon. After noise from the news and online posts faded, the days that followed felt quiet. The streets where Erica once drove now carried a strange stillness. People still looked at her pictures, but the rush of posts slowed down. The hashtag stopped appearing as often. The neighborhood seemed to pause, like the world had pressed a button that turned down the volume of life. Her home no longer carried the sound of laughter or music from her phone. Everything became soft and empty. Inside her family's house, her children's toys stayed in the same places. Her clothes hung neatly in the closet, untouched since that day. The light in her room felt cold, and the walls seemed to hold her presence in silence. Every item around carried a piece of her story. A brush on the table, a half-written note, a pair of shoes near the door. These small things told the story of someone who had left too soon. Her family moved slowly through each day, trying to understand the space she left behind. Her mother spent most of the time looking at old photos on her phone. Each picture brought back a memory, and every memory brought a moment of quiet. There were no long talks, only soft movements and quiet breathing. The family cooked meals but left plates untouched. The television played in the background, but nobody watched it. The silence inside the house grew louder than any sound could be. It became part of their routine. Outside, the neighbors still looked toward her house each time they passed by. They remembered the woman who always waved or smiled. Some left small flowers near the driveway. Others avoided walking too close, as if the air around it carried sadness. The community still felt the loss even without words. The sound of cars passing by or children playing nearby could not fill the empty space her absence created. The days slowly turned into weeks. People went back to work, school, and daily life. The social media pages that once carried her name now shared new topics. But for those closest to her, time did not move the same way. The silence stayed heavy in their homes, like a shadow that refused to fade. Each night, when the city lights dimmed, her face still appeared in their minds, clear and real as before. Her best friend visited the place where she last stood. The streetlight above flickered softly, the wind brushing across the quiet road. She stood there for a while, looking at the spot, not saying anything. The silence around her seemed to speak more than words could. She left a small candle on the curb and walked away, her footsteps fading slowly into the dark. The silence after Erica's death became its own story. It lived in the hearts of her family, in the streets of her neighborhood, and in the still air of her home. It was not the kind of silence that ends quickly. It was the kind that stays, holding memories in the quiet places where her voice once lived. After the funeral ended and the candles were gone, the police began their work quietly. Detectives returned to the scene, taking new photos and collecting more details. They spoke with neighbors, checking security cameras from nearby houses. Every frame, every second mattered. The officers wanted to understand what had happened that night. Their notebooks filled with times, names, and small details that could lead to answers. The sound of their radios was the only noise in the still air. The investigation moved carefully. Officers visited Erica's workplace and spoke to her co-workers. They wanted to know how she acted in the days before her death. They checked her phone, her messages, and her recent calls. The small device became an important part of the case. Her social media pages were reviewed too, as detectives searched for any strange comments or signs of trouble. Each clue added a small piece to a puzzle that had many missing parts. Family members were called to the station for statements. They sat across from detectives, speaking softly about her life, her habits, and the people she spent time with. Every story helped paint a picture of her final days. Investigators compared notes and timelines, marking events with color pins on a board. The days turned into long hours of reading, checking, and confirming. Nothing could be rushed. Every detail needed to be exact. Detectives also worked with phone companies and banks. They wanted to trace her last steps and any movements before her death. Receipts were collected, call logs printed, and GPS data reviewed. Each line of information gave them another direction to follow. Sometimes the data raised more confusion than clarity, but they continued with focus. The investigation grew larger as more people became involved in the process. At one point, the police met with forensic experts. They studied the evidence collected from the scene, reviewing fingerprints and small traces that most eyes would miss. The reports came in slowly, each page filled with measurements and observations. Everything had to match before they could draw conclusions. The investigators knew that every result mattered. The answers they were looking for could hide inside the smallest piece of evidence. The officers also watched hours of footage from nearby stores and traffic cameras. Most clips showed only cars passing by or empty streets. But sometimes one shadow or light made them pause and rewind. They played it again and again, writing down notes each time. It was tiring work, but they kept going. The case had to be solved, no matter how long it took or how quiet the trail had become. By the end of the first month, the investigation had filled folders and files. The detectives did not speak publicly about what they found. Everything stayed sealed while the work continued behind closed doors. The silence returned to the city, but this time it was mixed with quiet determination. The search for truth had started, and the story of Erica Ridgell was now resting in the careful hands of those seeking answers. Weeks after the investigation began, detectives finally found something new. A small piece of digital evidence appeared during a review of Erica's phone records. It was a message sent just hours before her death. The message mentioned meeting someone that night. This small line became the clue they had been waiting for. It gave the team a name, a time, and a possible place to start looking again. The mood inside the police office changed from stillness to quiet movement. The officers began tracking the number linked to that message. They followed it through call logs and traced its location using phone data. The signal matched an area not far from where Erica lived. Surveillance cameras in that zone were checked once more, this time with sharper focus. On one recording, a vehicle appeared that matched the same make and color as the one seen near Erica Street that evening. That frame became the key image pinned to their board. Detectives searched through registration records and found who owned the car. It belonged to someone Erica had known before. The discovery gave the case a new direction. They began building a timeline that connected the two people. Every meeting, message, and call was placed on a chart that showed the days leading up to her final hours. The evidence began to take shape, like pieces forming a full picture. Nothing about it was rushed, but everything was moving forward. As more clues came together, they uncovered new details about the person's activities. The investigators found old conversations and photos that linked both of them through social media. They also discovered deleted messages that had been recovered through data tools. These messages gave insight into tension that had grown over time. The discovery turned what was once unclear into something that made more sense. The case was beginning to unfold. The police contacted witnesses who had seen the vehicle on the night of the incident. Each person described what they remembered. Even the smallest details, like the direction the car turned or the sound of its engine. All statements were written down and compared with the digital records. The evidence matched closely, giving detectives more confidence in their findings. The pattern between the phone, the vehicle, and the timeline grew stronger. Detectives presented their early report to their supervisors. The room stayed quiet as the findings were read aloud. Pages filled with dates, maps, and photographs were laid across the table. The discovery was not just about what they had found, but how it connected everything that came before. The team agreed that the next step was clear. They needed to locate and question the person linked to the new evidence. When they left the meeting, the air outside felt heavy with purpose. The search had a clear target now. The long days of guessing were finally giving way to real progress. The discovery changed the direction of the case entirely. What began as a tragedy now stood at the edge of revelation, waiting for the truth to step into the light. The person connected to the messages was finally located by the police. They were found in a nearby neighborhood, living quietly and avoiding attention. Detectives approached carefully, aware that this could be the person who held the missing answers. The officers watched from a distance for several days, noting their movements and behavior. Every visit, call, and outing was recorded. The quiet observation continued until the team was ready to act. One morning, the police made contact. The suspect was taken in without resistance. At the station, the room stayed calm and cold as they sat across from detectives. Papers, photos, and printed messages were placed neatly on the table. The suspect looked at them in silence. The investigators explained why they were there, showing the evidence that tied them to Erica. Every document added pressure to the quiet air around them. The questioning began slowly. Detectives spoke in low voices, allowing moments of silence between each statement. The suspect gave short answers at first, trying to appear relaxed. But as more evidence appeared, their confidence began to shift. The small signs in their tone and body language told the officers more than the words did. Bit by bit, the truth began to surface through hesitation and long pauses. The investigators compared every answer with the timeline they had built earlier. The hours, locations, and digital records started matching. Phone data placed a suspect near Erica's street at the exact time of the incident. Surveillance images supported the claim further. The circle of facts closed in tightly, leaving little space for denial. The officers remained steady, writing every word in their reports. Forensic results from the earlier evidence also arrived. Items collected at the scene carried traces that linked directly to the suspect. It was a match that the team could not ignore. The report confirmed what they had been building toward for weeks. The findings tied the suspect not only to the message, but to final moments before Erica's death. The weight of the proof filled the room like quiet thunder. As the hours passed, the suspect's attitude changed. The calmness faded, replaced by visible tension. Their eyes shifted away from the photos on the table. Each detail shown made the situation harder to deny. The silence between every statement grew heavier. Detectives kept their focus, allowing facts to speak for themselves. The suspect's story started to break apart under the evidence laid before them. By evening, the interview ended. The officer stepped out of the room, leaving behind the faint sound of a closing door. The suspect was held for further questioning as the paperwork continued. Outside the station, the sky had already turned dark. The case that began with confusion was now tightening around one person. The search for truth had reached its most critical point, and the story of Erica Ridgell was one step closer to resolution. After long hours inside the station, the suspect finally began to talk. The room was quiet except for the steady sound of the recorder on the table. The detectives listened carefully as each word came out slowly. The truth was not loud or dramatic. It came out in broken sentences, heavy with pauses. Every detail shared connected the pieces of the puzzle that had stayed unsolved for weeks. The mystery that had filled the city was beginning to clear. The suspect explained how the night began and how events changed unexpectedly. They described where they went, who they met, and how the situation turned tense. The timeline matched the evidence the police had already gathered. Every minute described matched the call logs, camera footage, and witness reports. The truth unfolded like pages turning in a slow book. It was not a story of accident or confusion. It was something deliberate and planned. Detectives listened without interruption, writing down each sentence exactly as spoken. The confession filled the space with cold clarity. There were no excuses, only the facts as they happened. The more the suspect spoke, the more the picture became clear. The officers exchanged short glances, knowing that they had reached the moment they had worked toward since the beginning. The story they heard explained the silence that had followed Erica's death. The motive behind the act was simple but dark. It came from anger, pride, and unresolved emotions that had built up over time. Words had turned into arguments, and arguments had turned into harm. The suspect admitted to following Erica that night. The statement described every move leading to the final moment. The truth that emerged showed how something that started as a personal conflict ended in a permanent loss. After the full confession was given, the detectives left the room to file the reports. The evidence, the timeline, and the statement all fit together perfectly. The case no longer carried confusion or mystery. It carried facts supported by solid proof. Every officer involved in the investigation knew that justice had reached its turning point. The search for answers had finally reached an end. Outside the station, news of the confession began to spread quietly among those close to the case. Reporters waited for official confirmation, but the main story was already clear. The truth that once hid in silence had finally come to light. What had been whispers and rumors online now stood as confirmed reality. The discovery replaced questions with certainty. The city moved through the evening with a strange stillness. People talked softly about what they had heard, sharing the updates through phones and messages. The truth brought closure to some and shock to others. It marked the end of confusion and the beginning of final understanding. The case that started with mystery now carried the weight of truth, firm, undeniable, and lasting in every memory it touched. When the confession became official, the city reacted once again. The story appeared across news stations, radio updates, and online pages. Headlines carried Erica Ridgell's name in bold letters. People who had followed the case from the start now knew the full truth. The suspect's face appeared beside hers on the screen, showing the final link between them. The community that had waited for answers finally understood how everything had unfolded from beginning to end. In her family's home, silence returned, but it was different this time. The confusion had ended, replaced by a calm understanding. Her loved ones gathered in the living room, listening to the news as it confirmed what the detectives had discovered. Tears came quietly, not from surprise, but from the weight of reality. The case that had taken weeks to solve had finally reached its conclusion. The truth brought peace, even if it came with sadness. The police department released a short statement to the public. They thanked everyone who shared information and helped during the investigation. They spoke of justice being served and promised to continue protecting the community. The report listed the timeline, the evidence, and the charges filed. The facts stood firm, leaving no room for rumors or speculation. The official record became the closing chapter of a long, painful journey. The suspect was taken to court under heavy watch. The courtroom stayed silent as the details were read aloud. Each piece of evidence was shown again: the messages, the photos, the timeline, and the confession. The process moved slowly but carefully. Reporters filled the benches, writing notes for their next reports. The trial began, and the truth that had been spoken in private was now shared in public view. The name Erica Ridgell echoed through the room as her story was retold. Outside the courthouse, people gathered with signs and candles. They wanted to show support for Erica's family and remind others of what had been lost. Some wore shirts with her photo printed across the front. Others stood quietly, watching as the police cars left the building. The crowd stayed peaceful, their presence showing that her life had not been forgotten. The sound of quiet voices and camera clicks filled the air around them. Days later, the verdict was reached. The suspect was found guilty and faced a sentence decided by the court. The officers who worked on the case closed their files and moved on to new duties. For Erica's family, the result did not erase the pain, but it brought finality. The justice system had spoken, and the story had reached its end in the eyes of the law. The city began to settle again after weeks of tension. As time passed, her story became a lesson often repeated in the community. People spoke about her kindness, her strength, and how quickly life can change. Her name stayed alive through photos, posts, and memories shared by those who loved her. The aftermath of her death left behind a message that stayed strong, a reminder of how truth, though painful, can finally bring peace to the silence left behind. Months passed after the trial ended, and life in the city slowly returned to its usual rhythm. Yet Erica Ridgell's name continued to live in conversations, news mentions, and community gatherings. Her story had touched many hearts, not just for the sadness it carried, but for the reminder it left behind. People began to speak about her life more than her death. The focus shifted from the tragedy to the lessons her story had taught. Her family started a small foundation in her name. The goal was to help young women in the community and provide support for families affected by violence. They organized small events, shared safety information, and offered guidance to others. The foundation carried her photo on every poster and banner. Each gathering served as a quiet way to honor her memory while helping others avoid similar pain. Her name became a symbol of awareness and change. At her former workplace, co-workers placed a framed picture of her near the entrance. It stayed there as a reminder of her laughter and hard work. They spoke kindly of her dedication and how she made every day feel brighter. On certain days, flowers appeared beside the frame, left by friends who still remember her smile. The memory of who she was continued to inspire those who had known her best. Schools and community centers began to share her story in talks about safety and respect. Teachers explained how small choices could lead to big changes and how speaking up could save lives. Her story became part of those lessons, showing the importance of care and awareness. People listened, understanding that her legacy was not only about what happened, but also about what could be prevented in the future. Online, her social media pages turned into quiet memorials. Friends and family still posted messages on her birthday and special dates. Some shared old videos showing her singing, laughing, and enjoying life. Others left short notes, thanking her for the impact she continued to have. The page became a place of comfort, where memories stayed alive through words and pictures. It turned into a digital reminder that love does not fade with time. Each year, her family held a candlelight walk in her honor. They walked through the same streets she once did, carrying candles that glowed softly in the night. People from different areas joined in silence, following the same path together. The event was peaceful, filled with gentle steps and shared understanding. Every light carried a message, one of hope, unity, and remembrance. The legacy of Erica Ridgell remained steady in the hearts of those who knew her. Her story became more than just a memory. It became a lesson that continued to guide others. Through her family's work, her friends' dedication, and her community's respect, she continued to live on. Her name stood as a reminder that even in loss, there can be strength, and through memory, there can still be light. Time moved forward, but the story of Erica Ridgell never faded from memory. Her name stayed present in quiet thoughts and gentle conversations. The reflection of her life became something larger than the event that ended it. People spoke about how her story changed the way they looked at their own lives. It reminded them to value each day and treat others with care. Her story became a mirror for the city, showing both pain and the strength to heal. Her family often gathered on weekends to share stories about her. They looked through old photo albums filled with moments that once seemed ordinary. Each picture carried a piece of her energy, the laughter, the expressions, the bright eyes. These small memories became the way they kept her close. The reflection of who she was lived inside those quiet afternoons filled with warmth and stillness. Friends continued to visit her favorite places. Some stopped by the park where she used to walk, sitting on the same bench she once loved. Others visited her resting place, leaving flowers and notes. These visits were calm, without words or tears. They were moments of reflection, where silence spoke more than voices could. The peace in those visits showed how love remained even after everything had changed. Community members also reflected on what her case taught them. They understood the need for awareness, caution, and unity. Local programs grew stronger, and people looked out for one another more often. Her story encouraged simple acts of care, like checking on a friend or offering help when something seemed wrong. The reflection of her life spread through actions more than words, shaping the way people treated each other. The city's news stations later aired a short feature about her legacy. It showed her photos, her family's foundation, and the positive work that followed her story. Viewers watched quietly, remembering the early days when her name first appeared on their screens. The feature ended with her smiling photo, followed by a line about the importance of kindness and safety. It left a soft silence after it ended, one that carried thought and respect. At night, her mother sometimes sat by the window, looking at the sky. The reflection of the moonlight reminded her of her daughter's brightness. The quiet moments became her way of staying connected. Each breath of wind, each passing car, and each soft sound outside carried a memory. In those reflections, peace slowly replaced pain. The home that once felt empty now carried gentle signs of comfort. The reflection of Erica Ridgell's life became something that touched every corner of her community. Her story reminded everyone that even after loss, meaning could still be found. Her memory stood not as a shadow of tragedy, but as a light of understanding. Through remembrance, kindness, and growth, her reflection continued to shine, calm, steady, and everlasting. The final chapter of Erica Ridgell's story came quietly, without the noise that once surrounded her name. Time had softened the pain, leaving behind a trace of calmness. People had stopped searching for answers, and instead focused on what her story had taught them. The journey from chaos to calm had been long, but it left a mark that would never fade. Her memory had become a part of the city's rhythm, moving gently through its people and places. Her mother, once filled with unbearable grief, found new strength in helping others. She began to speak at community gatherings, sharing her daughter's story not with tears, but with purpose. Her words carried hope for families who felt lost. She encouraged others to listen to their instincts, to look after those they loved, and to hold on to peace when life grew dark. Each speech became a way to keep Erica's spirit alive in the hearts of strangers. Across town, murals and candles decorated a small wall near the park where Erica once walked. Artists painted her face, surrounded by soft colors and bright skies. Children passing by would stop to look, asking their parents who she was. They were told she was someone who reminded people to care, to be aware, and to love without fear. The mural became more than art. It became a message carved into the heart of the community. The police officers who once worked her case carried silent reminders of what they had seen. The case had taught them the value of patience, empathy, and follow-through. It had also changed the way investigations were handled, ensuring victims' families were treated with deeper understanding. Though they moved on to new cases, Erica's name stayed in their reports and memories, not as a file, but as a life that mattered. In the city's quiet corners, small gestures of remembrance appeared every year. Balloons were released, candles were lit, and prayers were whispered. No one announced it publicly, but those who knew simply gathered. The events were peaceful, filled with calm music and soft laughter. The gatherings became a way to celebrate the life that once filled their streets with light, transforming sorrow into something gentle and lasting. As seasons changed, her story blended into the rhythm of everyday life. The lessons remained in conversations, in classrooms, and in homes. Her legacy was no longer about loss, but about awareness and care. She became a silent reminder that safety, compassion, and attention can save lives. Each new year brought a quiet tribute, not for the pain of what happened, but for the strength that followed. The closing chapter was not about endings, but about continuation. Erica Ridgell's story moved beyond the pages of reports and memories. It became a living message carried through time, soft, meaningful, and enduring. In the calm after everything, her name stood as a sign of courage and reflection, reminding all that even in silence, her story still spoke. Here at Unseen Crime Dossiers, we're driven by a mission to uncover hidden realities, honor forgotten voices, and keep their memories alive. If this story made you pause, reflect, or feel something, there's more coming that will challenge you even deeper. Make sure to hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a case. We're dropping new episodes regularly. And trust us, what's ahead is even more chilling. Before you go, we want to hear from you. What moment hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. Your perspective matters, and your voice helps keep these stories alive. Until next time, stay alert, stay informed, and never stop seeking the truth, because every life deserves to be heard. Thanks you all for watching.